Elapsed time. Finding the end time. Elapsed time. And when we think of elapsed time, we're talking about how much time has passed, or what time it will be in the future, or at what time did we start something. So we're either going to look for a start time, an end time, or a change in time. So the first thing I want us to think about is time in itself, because when we think about time, we might be looking at a specific time, like our start or end times, or an amount of time. That could be the change in time. And that's kind of important to understand the difference. The change in time is an amount of time. It's not a specific moment in time, if that makes sense. And so I have with me a watch that the battery is dead. This allows me to move the hands, and the gears are still working, which allows the hands to move the way they normally would. I just can move it faster or slower and put it where I want it. And I want us to look at one of the strategies I've seen students use, and that's just plain addition. So let's say that it's 3 o'clock, and I know I still have 15 minutes of homework left. What time would I expect to end? And a strategy that I've seen students use is simply to add it. And when I do that, I get 3:15. If I go to my watch to check, and here's 3 o'clock, and we add 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and 15 minutes, I get 3:15. So in this case, that strategy worked. But it's not a strategy I recommend using. And the reason why is it does not always work. And there's not it always works if it's less than an hour, or it always works if it's more than an hour. It never works here. It works sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't. And so when I like to have strategies, I want it to be a strategy that you can use all the time. And one such strategy is the number line. And if I put this on a number line, okay, and I want us to think about a number line is a vertical or a horizontal representation of the numbers in order. And so when you first learned to add with a number line, and let's say the problem is 6 plus 7, you first started at 0, you counted over 6, and then you added 7 more on, and you got to 13. And that worked great. And then as you got better, you stopped starting at 0 and you went right to 6 and added the 7 on. And so we're not going to start at midnight with our number line and put all the times on our number line. We're going right to 3 o'clock. Okay. So here I'm at 3 o'clock, and we're going to add 15 minutes. I'm going to do it into increments of 5. So I'm going to count by 5, 5, 10, 15. So each one of these is 5-minute increments. And now I'm going to write the times below it. So from 3, adding 5 minutes to it gives us 3:05. Okay, and it matches. Then we add 5 more minutes. We're at 3:10. And when we add 5 more minutes, we get to 3:15. We're still getting the same answer as when we did it this way. This, however, works all the time. So let's look at another situation. Let's say our starting time is 3:45. And we're going to add 45 minutes. Okay, so maybe you take a break from 3:15 to 3:45, and now it's time for you to get back to your homework. You have 45 minutes more of homework. What time will you end? And so I'm going to put my number line on. And let's go ahead and zoom in just a little bit. So I still want the clock in there. And I'm going to put my 3:45 on. We're going to jump 45 minutes. I'm again going to break it into 5-minute intervals or increments. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. And I'm going to put my arrow on. Now, I forgot to put the arrow on in the earlier one. It's kind of important to put the arrow on, at least for that last one, so we know which direction we're going. Okay, if someone else is looking at it. So we're adding 5 minutes each time. And now I'm going to write the time for those jumps. So if we're at 3:45 and we add 5 more minutes, now we're at 3:50. Then we're at 3:55. Then we're at 4 o'clock. Why 4 o'clock? Because looking at our watch, here is 3:55. When we add 5 more, it puts us at 60, but we know at 60 minutes we start the next hour. So now we're at 4 o'clock. We can add 4:05, adding that 5, and we keep going, adding 5 minutes each time. And our last jump takes us to 4:30. Okay. And remember I said this strategy doesn't always work. So if I use that strategy and I add it, 5 and 5 is 10, carry the 1. 4 and 4 is 8, plus 1 more is 9. And I'm at 390. That doesn't make sense. Now, I do know that there are students who say, but Ms. Harper, I know how to convert this. And yes, you can convert it, and it will come out with the right answer. When we're going backwards, when we're subtracting to look for that start time, it's much more complicated to convert. So this strategy works every time, whether I'm going forward or I'm going backwards or I'm looking for how many minutes I've jumped. It is a strategy that works every time. It's not the only strategy that works every time, but it is a strategy that works every time. So this is not the strategies we want to use. We want to use a strategy that we can use every time. Elapsed time. Finding the start time. We're now going to look at what happens if we're looking for the start time. So the previous example was showing how to find the end time. We knew the start, we knew the change. We want to find the end time. This time we're going to try to find the start time. Let's say we were watching a movie. It ended at let's say 6:15. And we know how long the movie lasted. The movie lasted 2 hours and 30 minutes. It was a nice long movie. And we are looking for the start time. In our previous example, we had the start time. We knew the change. We were looking for the end time. And we went forward. Notice how when I write it this way, start, change, end, that I'm going backwards. It's that same kind of idea. I know where I'm going to end. Now I'm working backwards to get to the start time or the beginning. So I'm going to start with my number line again. I'm going to put my end time. Notice that my end time is near the end of my number line. And I'm going to put 6:15. And now I'm going to work backwards 2 hours and 30 minutes. So if I were to think about my watch again, let's put it on 6:15. This would be me going backwards with the time. Okay. And you're going back and you're going back. So let's go back to 6:15 so we can talk about how that's going to look on our number line. This time we have hours. We didn't have hours in the one before, but this time we do. And I like to go back with my hours first and get them out of the way, and they're big jumps. Okay. And although we didn't talk about it last time, we only jumped in 5-minute increments. Remember, I did say you could jump into bigger increments than that, or even smaller. You could jump in increments of 1 minute. So I'm not going to jump just 1 hour and 1 hour. I'm going to jump the 2 hours all at one time. So I'm going to jump 2 hours. And I'm putting a subtraction sign there because I want it to show that I'm going backwards. And so my arrow is going to point backwards. And it's 2 hours. So I'm looking at how the time. We're at 6:15 and we want to go back 2 hours. So looking at the hour hand near the 6 and we go back, it's going to be near the 4. So we're going to be at 4. We're not changing the minutes. 4:15. So let's go back an hour. That's 1 hour. 2 hours. And notice I did it all in one big jump. Now we're going to jump the minutes. And I'm at 4:15, which means it's 15 minutes after 4 o'clock. So I'm going to jump 15 minutes. I'm going to jump back 15 minutes. So I get to 4 o'clock. That's not as many minutes as I need to jump. I need to jump 30, but I'm going to go back 15 minutes. Okay, that's going to get me to 4 o'clock. So if I think about it, and if I wasn't sure, I could kind of look at the clock and go 5, 10, 15. Now I'm at 4 o'clock. How many more minutes do I need to jump? Well, let's see. I've already taken care of that 2 hours. Now I need to take care of the 30 minutes. So I'm going to do 30 minus the 15 I've already jumped. And some of you may be saying, but Ms. Harper, you told us not to add and subtract. And remember what we were doing. We were taking the time and then trying to subtract it. Okay. I'm not taking the time. I'm taking an amount of time and subtracting out another amount of time. So before I was trying to do two things. I was trying to take a time and subtract out or add into an amount of time. Now I'm taking an amount of time and subtracting an amount of time. They're the same thing I'm adding and subtracting, where before I wasn't. So let me go ahead and do that. That leaves 15 minutes. Now I'm going to go back 15 minutes. If you're good with time and you notice the quarter hours, then 15 minutes is an easy increment to jump by. If not, you can jump now by 1 minute. You can jump now by 5-minute increments. You can do a 10 and a 5. I'm just going to switch it up a little bit and do 5-minute increments. So 5, 10, 15. I'm writing in there that I'm going back 5. Put my M for minutes. Okay. And if I'm at 4 o'clock and I go 5 minutes before that, so 5, now I'm in a different hour. Okay. Anything after that, hand being straight up at the 12, is in the 4 o'clock hour. But before that, now it may look like it's next to that 4, but it's really, we're just so close to the hour that it looks that close, but we're not really. Now we're at 3:55. And if we go back 5 more minutes, you can see that hour hand moved a little tiny bit 3:50. And if we do 5 more minutes, we are at 3:45. Have we used all of our minutes? Yes, we can check 15, 20, 25, 30. We've used all of our minutes. We've already jumped our hours. So our start time is 3:45. Elapsed time. Finding the change in time. Okay, we're back, and this time let's talk about change in time. So in our previous lessons, we had a start time and a change. We had an end time and a change. This time we have a start and an end, and we're looking for the change. Start, end, and we're looking for the change. For instance, what if we had a start time of 11:27? Okay. And we had an end time of 1:15. And we want to know the change. Maybe we put something in the oven at 11:27 and it finally came out at 1:15. Or maybe we started playing a game at 11:27 and we finished it at 1:15. And we want to know how long did it last. That's that change. So again, I go to my number line and I have my start time and I'm going to work until I get here. Okay. Now notice that 27 is kind of a odd number. It's not one of those good fives, ending in 5 or 30 or 15. It's 27. So we've got a couple minutes in there. And when you see that, there's two ways to think about it. I can go ahead and put a few minutes with it to get to that nice, easy 11:30. Or I can wait until I deal with the hours and then come back to do it. So there's two different ways. I'm going to start by getting to that easy 11:30 and then do some bigger jumps and then go back with the minutes. And then I'll have to add everything together. To do that, I'm going to count by ones until I get to 11:30. Now, some of you are going, but Ms. Harper, I know how many minutes it is, and it's okay. If you do, go ahead and jump those many minutes. But I'm going to show it with 1 because I know you can take it and run further with it. Okay? So 1, 2, so 11:28, 11:29, 11:30. Because each one of these was 1 minute. So we're adding 1, we're adding 1, we're adding 1. And these are minutes, and I'm only going to put an M because I don't have room to write min, M-I-N, as the abbreviation. So I have 11:30. I'm still trying to get to 1:15. So now I'm at that easier number. I'm going to jump by hours, okay, because now my brain can process a little bit better. So if I add an hour to 11:30, 1 hour, that's a big jump. 1 hour takes me to 12:30. Okay. If I add another hour, okay, there's not a 13:30 unless you're in military time, but if you're in regular time, we're not going to say 13:30 because after 12, think about on the clock, what happens after 12? 1. So when I add an hour, it would be 1:30. That's after my end time. So I'm not going to add another hour. Now I'm going to go to minutes. I can do my 5-minute increments or I can think bigger jumps. If I think a bigger jump, I'm at 12:30. So if I look at it on my watch, here's my 12:30. If I look at it on here and I go forward 30 minutes because it's halfway, if I go the other half, that's going to take me, that's 30 minutes, that's half an hour, and it's going to take me to 1 o'clock. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add 30 minutes. That's going to take me to 1 o'clock. All right. And then I know I still need to get to 1:15, but if I'm at 1 o'clock and I think, 1:15, how far is that? 5, 10, 15 minutes. So let me add 15 minutes. And I end up at 1:15. Now, could I do the 3 minutes, jump that hour, and then add on? Absolutely. Could I have added the hour, 11:27 to 12:27, and then jumped on? Yes. Either one is fine. If I wanted to do the hour first, absolutely. If I wanted to keep going until I got from 11:30 to 12:15 and then add an hour, absolutely. I just find this is easier to do, okay, in this order. But the great thing about this strategy is you get to decide the order and you get to decide the increments as long as you're either making the change that you need to make or you're getting to the end time that you need to. Okay, we're not done yet because we still don't have a change. What that means is now I need to tally up how far I changed. So I have an hour. Okay. I have 3 minutes. I have 30 minutes. And I have 15 minutes. Okay, and I'm going to add these up. If this goes over 60, that means that I'm going to have to pull out 60 of those minutes and make an hour. Okay, I'll decompose that number into 60 plus whatever. And if I can make more than 160, then I make more than 160. So 3 and 5 is 8, and 3 and 1 is 4. So I have 48, 1 hour, and 48 minutes. 1 hour, 48 minutes. And that is my change. Okay. And sometimes that's what I'm looking for. How long did something take? In this case, it took 1 hour and 48 minutes.